What's going on? What's going on? All right, you know what time it is. You know what rhyme it is. You know what it is. Your gracious host 86. And today we got some stuff to discuss. What's going on, man? What's going on? Tip Cam, how you feeling? What's up with you, Tay Tay? How you been? Long time subscriber there. Very loyal following indeed. How was everybody's weekend? Was everybody having a very uh, productive and joyful weekend? It's nice weather out here today. Weather was really clear. Saturday and Sunday was actually Saturday was kind of a little bit rainy later on, but Sunday made up for it because it was beautiful today. Sky was clear, clouds was out, all natural clouds. Didn't see any man-made clouds in the sky. Very interesting. So yeah, that was dope. Didn't do too much today myself. Just hung out a little bit, watched some TV. I went back through the Marvel series. The Age of Ultron. I went back and watched that one. I watched what the hell was it? The one right before it. What was that? That was Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Because I think the Winter Soldier was before Age of Ultron. Age of Ultron was right after that because that picked up where Wanda and her brother Quicksilver, when they were still in the cage and they came out the cage, and then Ultron was working with them. But yeah, so I went back and it's the foreshadowing was crazy in those movies, man. I mean, they told a lot of stories. They included the endings in different parts of the stories. It was very, very interesting how they did that, man. It was excellent writing. I mean, it's just fantastic writing. And it just makes me wonder why DC can't get that shit together. It's not like they don't have, they didn't have like a huge example to make it off of. The bar was set. All you had to do pretty much was, give the script in the hands of somebody that would have made that jump. Which a lot of people say the Snyder Cut was that, but they trying to restart the Snyderverse, but I'm not sure that'll happen. Maybe it could. If there's money, that's definitely a way to do it. If there's money for it, or if there's a desire for it, there's money that can be made. Yeah, definitely, it can be done. So with that said, pretty much moving into today's topic. Actually, one of them. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the FBI documents that were declassified. I know over the last 3 years they declassified. I think they said it was like 300 million documents or something like that. It was an absurd amount of information that was pretty much released. That was like different things, and a lot of it hasn't even been brought to like the forefront, like in terms of mainstream media. Of course, they don't talk about a lot of that stuff on the news, of course, so you'd have to go to the internet. But even on certain channels of the internet, they don't discuss a whole lot of it. But one thing I did manage to pick up on, very interesting. I might have to do a share screen on this. So apparently, according to an FBI document, Nikola Tesla was from Venus. He wasn't even from Earth or this planet. Dude was from Venus. And this is going to be a little out there, but I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So let me see here. Share the screen real quick. Give me a sec. Get this bad boy activated. Here it is right here. All right, so I'm going to show this one first. All right, so you can go right on Google if you guys can see it. You can go right on Google and you can pull this up yourself right on Google. It's not, they don't hide this stuff. It's there. You just have to go find it. So all this stuff is declassified. This one looks like it was declassified in 1982. I don't know. I literally just heard about this recently. As a matter of fact, I think it was late last year. So just scroll down the pages and stuff like that. And there's literally there's a whole bunch of pages with it. And they talk about everything here. Flying saucers and all that good stuff. I mean, you had to do your own research. But everything's pretty much here. And there's literally pages and pages and pages of this stuff. And it's 64 pages. So like the more you go down, the more interesting it gets. So if I was you guys, I would definitely take a look yourself on your own spare time and start reading this. But like, you literally have the Federal Bureau of Investigation basically coming out and saying that this dude was from another planet that isn't even supposed to be able to hold or inhabit life form. Like, it's crazy. That's crazy to me. It's 100% weird. So there you kept that. Stuff like this for me, very interesting. Um, that blew me away. So I have yet to read through all the pages, but like I literally just got back around it. The Tesla files. Yeah, yeah. What was it? What is that on? What channel is that on? Because I'm still gonna read the document because that's some interesting stuff. And like, yo, this is stuff that's not supposed to be able to be possible, but yet it's been declassified FBI documents. And the crazy thing about it, I can't understand is why nobody is talking about stuff like this. That's crazy to me. Like, yo, if you really look at so much information that's out there and look at what people are talking about right now, you can literally see why everything is the way it is, because people are just completely zoned out and they're completely like on a path to where they're being guided. Nobody's doing their own independent thought. And when you start putting the pieces together like that, it all makes sense as to why, everything is happening the way it is. I mean, it's mind blowing, man. This literally you have, and just in 2018, they just released something. I can't remember what followed. I gotta look it up. Let me see. Maybe I can find that real quick. Hold on. Here it is right here. Here it is right here. All right. So another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about too was this right here. This isn't going to be a super long video tonight because I do have another thing I got to take care of, but I just want to stir your thoughts up a little bit. So give you a little bit of information to delve into in case you didn't know already. Let's see. All right. Let's take a look right here. Yo, look at this. Look at this. Look at this, yo. So look at this. And this was 2019, as a matter of fact. Now I was saying this for the longest time, and nobody believed me. But I was saying I don't think the layout that we've been told of how everything looks is exactly how we're being told it looks. So like they're saying that the Earth's atmosphere actually extends past the moon. So the moon is inside Earth. And the moon is inside our atmosphere. Now, which begs the question: if you want to read the document here, I mean, you can read it yourself, pretty much. And as far as the atmosphere goes, I mean, they're saying they knew about it since I think 1995 or 1998. It was down here somewhere, but they just literally released the information. So it's like, all right, so y'all was either lying or y'all just flat out weren't telling us what the hell the truth was. They came out and said that the Earth's atmosphere extends way past, if that's how the Earth looks, extends way past the moon. So they came out and basically said, all right, we ain't been telling you the whole truth. And it's just like, yo, y'all, they dropping breadcrumbs, man. And the further you look into this stuff, the more it doesn't make sense. All right, that's enough. It's starting to be retarded. The more it doesn't make sense. They literally said the moon is inside the Earth's atmosphere. Then they interviewed a scientist. I can't remember who it was. I wish I had that joint right there too. You could probably look it up. But they said it was a scientist who they interviewed, and they were asking him, well, why don't you just go back to the moon and prove that you did land on the moon with the technology you had? Because obviously, if you had that technology back then, the technology you had is so much greater. It should be easier to go back to the moon. This son of a bitch said. And he literally said out of his mouth, yeah, that technology doesn't exist anymore. That technology has been destroyed. So there's no way we can go back. What? What are you talking about? So hold on. So you mean to tell me you developed the old school Fred Flintstone car where you had to pedal with your feet basically, and now you have a electric car that moves on its own, but for some reason you can't drive or however you get there to the mall with that electric car. Get the fuck out of here. It's bullshit. It's complete lies. All that stuff is fucking phony as hell. These dudes investigated a lab he worked at where he allegedly built this huge tower core that may have wirelessly provided electricity to the whole world using the atmosphere. Yeah. You know what's interesting though? They said he got the idea from the Egyptians, and he was trying to decode what the Egyptians used for power and how they used the pyramids for power. And apparently the pyramids had a gas chamber in them, and they used the I think gold caps on top of the pyramids to conduct energy, and they used like I guess the gas or what have you to shoot the energy out. It's really, really complex how it was done, but they were saying they couldn't figure out what the purpose was for. But it makes sense if you really go back and think about it, because all those cities back in the day, before we even had, the United States of America, all those cities were powered. I mean, these cities had night lights and stuff like that. These cities that were in Africa, they had night lights or street lights or what have you. These were very advanced cities, but they lie to you and tell you that these cities were not advanced at all. But you can actually delve back in the history yourself and see these cities actually were pretty advanced for their time. I mean, they had really intricate building structures at the time. Of course, they had street lights, they had power, and all that stuff. I mean, they try to tell you that this stuff was created by us here in America, but it wasn't. This shit is old technology. I would be surprised if a lot of those libraries that they try to destroy and burn down, and all those books that they destroyed when it was Timbuktu, I think it was. The libraries were in Timbuktu when they were destroyed pretty much. Not surprised if they put a lot of this stuff in the Vatican. You probably have all those books in the Vatican, and they probably just took them away from public eye and destroyed the buildings and say, yeah, they were burnt down in the buildings. But all the books and all the ancient technology they've already had. I mean, if you go in a pyramid, and you can look this up also on YouTube. Matter of fact, we got time tonight. I'm gonna show you this too. I'm gonna show you myself. Hold up. Do this real quick. I'm gonna pull it up first. Hold on. They actually had this up right here. I spelled pyramids wrong like a dumbass. All right, so look, here we go. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about real quick. Check this out. All right, so boom. Look at this. This is inscriptions on the inside of the pyramids, which are hundreds of thousands of years old, according to what all historic documents say. And if you look at these pyramids, they clearly have things like this is either a jet or some kind of submarine or something. That right there looks like an Apache helicopter. That's a submarine right there. This one probably some kind of jet or something like that. That's an Apache helicopter right there. I mean, and these are inscriptions that have been on the inside of these pyramids for hundreds of thousands of years. So either one or two things are happening. You either got a situation where the technology has already been there for that long, like hundreds of thousands of years, or you have a situation where they predicted the future somehow. However it was done, there's definitely some craziness going on behind that they're not telling you about. But the breadcrumbs are all there. They can't completely alleviate or erase all this stuff. They have to leave some trail there so you can discover the truth. Again, I mean, we all know what it goes back to when they have to leave you a way out. They can't just box you in and leave you stuck where you at. They have to leave some way for you to find out who you are, but they don't have to do it themselves. They don't have to tell you who you are. They can leave the trail there so you can see it. So there you have it. So yeah, I mean, interesting stuff, man. Trump's uncle. Yeah. I mean, and let me explain something to you. Anybody who's watching this channel probably already knows this, but for anybody who's not one of my subscribers and just watching the video for the first time, if you believe for 1 second that Donald Trump was actually at war, because I mean, I used to think the same thing too. You watch some of my older videos, I was pretty much eating out of the damn media's hand and I didn't know any better. But, as you start to take in more information, you start to learn more. You start to uncover different things. So at this point, we all know, if you believe that Trump was actually at war with any of those people in that White House or outside or Capitol Hill, you are a goddamn idiot. I mean, you're not going to be in that position to be in the White House at all if you're not part of the program. And that's what it is. So ain't no none of that shit. People go missing for less. So nah. Let me see here. Oh, phone there. What up? Finest thing walking. I saw your video earlier, man. I ain't gonna jump too far off topic, but Shorty was on that Fat Joe 2001 shit. She was trying to crush, man. I think you knew it too. Stargates. You know what's interesting? I was watching what the hell was it? I think it was the Age of Ultron. And very interestingly enough, you said it was a Stargate. It just made me think of like a travel point or something like that. So I had saw when Thor used his hammer to teleport back to Asgard, that little rainbow light comes and he just disappears. He left like a trail in the grass. The grass was like some kind of crazy inscription was left in the grass. And you know, that remind me of those crop circles. Those crop circles. Remember we talked about this 3 weeks ago when let me show you. Hold on. Those crop circles we were talking about. Remember those perfect circles we looked at when people are inside their planes and they're looking out the side of the window and they're seeing perfect circles, like literally perfect circles done with like a protractor or something like that, or a compass or whatever it is. Hold on. So like, yo, it is very interesting because thinking about that, just hold on, go back. That's not what I wanted. Thinking about that, just it jogged my memory a little bit and got me thinking like, yo, and you know, they always got to leave you again. We're talking about the breadcrumbs. They got to leave you the breadcrumbs. They have to make it so that you are given a clue as to what's going on. I think they called it Norse magic or something like that. It won't work if they don't tell you what they're going to do first, which is what they've been telling us for the longest time. So let's take a look at this real quick. Now, we jumping all over the place here, but I'm saying all this to make a point because we about to go into something else in case a lot of you aren't music fans. So here we go right here. So we already know the FBI has been keeping shit from us, like Nikola Tesla being from Venus. And we know that they've been lying to us about the moon being inside the Earth's atmosphere. Well, for the longest time, they said it was outside the atmosphere, outer space, and there was no atmosphere out there. So we know that they've already came out clean about that. Now, look at these crop circles right here. Look how beautiful these things are. And if you look at how Thor transported and Thor used his hammer to transport, it was something similar to this left in the grass, but it was much smaller. But these things are huge. Now, what if it was a situation where you had whatever beings traveling to another dimension, and each of these things they leave right here is a different dimension they travel to? What if it's a situation like that? I'm just thinking, we're just throwing thoughts out there. I mean, nobody's ever officially came across or discovered exactly what these things are. But I mean, let's just put it out there. I mean, we've seen what we know about the breadcrumb strategy they employed, and we know about them leaving clues and stuff like that. So why not connect the dots? What if it's a situation where those crop circles are like some kind of gate or portal or something like that, or Stargate? You know, not part of the subject. Oh yeah, we gonna have to talk about that another time, Mr. Warner. We on another wave tonight, bro. And yes, my man TYP Cam. We are definitely headed towards 1K. I think I got like 8 more subscribers, and I got 1,000 subscribers, yo. And I basically bust my ass for 3 years putting together content to try to get there, man. So I'm glad y'all could be there for the journey, man. Thank y'all so much, everybody that helped me out. You know, I try to be as fair as I can to everybody, but yo, to everybody who stood by me that whole entire time and listened to me run my damn mouth, I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, guys. Means a lot. All right, so let's go into. All right, so we say all that to say this. So I'm just basically getting y'all right to understand what you're about to hear. All right, so now we know there's people who are put in certain points or places within the media who know certain things, who divulge information. Now, what if it was a situation where those people were punished for doing so? Now, I'm going to do this here. Let's go ahead and share this. We're going to talk about cannabis. Who remembers cannabis from the 90s? Who remembers cannabis from the 90s? We're talking about the rapper. No, this is some old head stuff. So Finest Ain't Walking, you probably think we old as hell. So like we're gonna talk about this though, because this is very relevant to today's topic. And I listened to this track when I was younger, but it didn't resonate the same because this shit came out like 1998 or 97. But yo, I was in like goddamn, I think 8th grade or something like that back then. Shit didn't resonate like that. But yo, when I went back to listen to this early this year, I was like, yo, it all makes sense now. It all makes sense now. They hushed that dude up because he was running his goddamn mouth. So look, check this out. We're going to do this, and I'm going to play this joint. And we're going to go hard. We're just going to play it regardless of whatever. Here we go right here. All right, check this out, yo.
Approximately 50 years ago, under the direction of President Harry Truman and in the interest of national security, a group of 12 top military scientific personnel were established. This group's primary objective was to desensitize us to the truth and to suppress the material evidence that our planet is being visited by a group of extraterrestrial biological entities called the Greys. Too many times. Yo, sometimes the road to the truth is so elusive it's confusion and reality becomes illusion. If I show the masses where we was at and where we was going, I'd shatter the social balance of the world as we know it. I'm talking about the grand deception of 1947 when our souls were sold to the heavens for technologically advanced weapons, crystalline hands, brain implants, and mind control methods. MJ-12 is not majestic, and the focal point of our problems on this planet is not domestic. You can accept it or be stupid and be a skeptic. I fail to recognize the secret society's death wish. 97% of our presidents were Masons, responsible for laundering trillions of dollars from the nation for the construction of underground military installations, abductions and cattle mutilations, experiments on human patients that take place in several subterranean bases, 150 stories below a basement with knowledge of genetic information. You need to fear science, not Satan, because through the manipulation of certain biological agents, they create strange creations, top secret special operations, low frequency sounds and lasers. People like Carl Sagan that didn't believe in the Drake equation were trying to keep Western civilization on a need-to-know basis. Well, you need to know that this is a game and we being portrayed and played in the worst way. Too many times zero. 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 Yo, the Holy Script from Genesis 1:26 says, "Let us make man in our image under our likeness." First of all, who's they? You see, if God was truly a single entity, that's not what he would say. We, as the Elohim, gods and goddesses, possess a marvelously monstrous subconscious life forms to speak in very high-pitched sounds and squeaks, short staccato clicks and beeps, a highly advanced form of speech. Even though to us it seems like they only chatter in their teeth, they used to swim deep in the oceans beneath, till their fins transformed into limbs and they started to creep. Then they evolved into mammals with feet and walked right from the shorelines onto the beach. They use gravity, cause it's actually the only force around that can slow time and the speed of light down. The energy grid network opened the gateway from Earth to any point in the universe. Living organisms in various geomagnetic gravitational anomaly areas. Space expedition teams in the lunar regions reported seeing scissor pyramids and tetrahedrons. Liquid-filled shoes is what they use to walk across the moon without leaving a clue of where they've been for the past 23 billion years. Before life on the surface even appeared. I hope you become aware what I'm spitting in your ear was intended to stimulate your left brain's hemisphere. I know it sounds weird, all these motherfucking answers and questions to the grand deception. Too many times zero. 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 Too many times zero.
All right. a lot to unpack there, man. So much information. All I'm saying is this, man. Right after that song, I think before his album even got put out, if I'm not mistaken, before his album even got put out, he got in this beef with LL Cool J, and he ended up getting his career shelved right after, before his album even dropped, before Cannabis was killing the mixtape scene real heavy before the album came out. And a lot of people listen to hip hop real hard. They know this. They know how hard Cannabis went back then. That song gets recorded, and his album pretty much flops, and dude's career gets taken away from him immediately. LL Cool J dissed him for no reason. He got in this big battle with LL Cool J, and that was it for Yo. We never really, we heard a few peeps from him since, and the underground heads still listen to him and stuff like that. But like for the most part, dude got shelved. And it was like, yo, I wondered for the longest time what the hell happened in the game to make him throw his ass out like that. And I still stand by it today. The dude started talking too much. I mean, that information he was dropping was crazy. Like, yo, that shit was wild. So when we put it in that light, it starts to make sense as to why a dude was pretty much kicked out of the public spotlight. It's almost like he was trying to wake people up. And two things basically happened. One, wasn't time for nobody to wake up because that shit didn't really hit like it was supposed to. And two, they wasn't having that shit. So they got him up out of there. So there you have it, man. Listen back to that joke whenever you get a chance on your own spare time. And take notes, man, and just break that shit down, yo. So I wanted to go to another video real quick. We talking about a few things today. The last thing we're going to talk about is this right now. I'm not going to play this whole video because it's entirely too long, and I don't tend to be on here much longer. But let's go here. All right, so we put all that stuff together, and then we go to a video like this and play this.
Over the last few thousand years, we have warped our own history. Our stories of the past have been changed, altered, mistranslated, and completely been misunderstood as we rounded the curve on the precession of the equinox. Modern views of our history account for many things, but completely dismiss many very important pieces in the puzzle. For example, the pyramids of Giza. There is no modern theory that accounts for how these could have been made. Individually, each block cannot be pulled even with 50 men pulling it, let alone drag it for hundreds of miles and then stack them on top of each other 450 feet in the air, in such a precise way that even modern technology can't achieve. Not to mention having it lined up precisely with both Orion's belt, a golden mean, and Fibonacci spiral, and be a primary nodal point of every sacred site on the planet. And that's just one example. Our history is not what we think. Many things that we've been led to believe to be true simply is not. This has got to be the biggest. The field of archaeology recently saw some monumental discoveries that are rocking the foundation of what we think we know about ourselves. Many ancient cities such as Babylon, Erech, and Akkad that were written about in the Bible and other ancient texts were always thought to be myths because no one could prove they existed. Then, one of them was found. This led to finding another, and then another. Inside one of these cities, archaeologists found thousands of cylindrical clay tablets hidden deep within the earth under this ancient city. The tablets were completely covered in text, written in cuneiform, and tell an ancient story that spans back over hundreds of thousands of years on this planet, describing the history of the earth and the origins of the human race in great detail. Now, the first thing we all want to do is just say that they were making things up. They didn't know the history of Earth, and they were simply creating tales to explain where they came from. However, if this was true, how can we explain how they knew so many things about the universe that would seem impossible to know? Not only did the Dogons know all about the distant planets in the solar system, but so did the Sumerians. They described them all in great detail in these Sumerian records. They also knew about the precession of the equinox. That's a tough one for a historian to understand, because it takes over 2,000 years of continuous observation to actually learn that the Earth has a wobble. The Sumerians had this information from day one of their civilization. A man named Zacharias Sitchin spent a long time transcribing these texts and had put them all together in his books, but many others have also done the same, and the interpretations are always very similar. Not only that, but Thoth has also shared information about this with us, and his account matches the Sumerian records. Adamus and other channelings discuss it as well. If you see all of these records and sources, there is a huge connection between the stories. Now, this story spans back hundreds of thousands of years into our past. It talks about Tiamat and Nibiru, the Nephilim, seeding the human race, Adam and Eve, and the children of Lemuria. This portion of the story is really interesting, but not the most crucial to know. We're not going to be covering this at this time. We are, however, going to be picking up the story at the end of Lemuria and discussing the events of Atlantis up to present day. What I'm going to tell you is a mix of what these records say, along with what Thoth has told us for some finer details. Please have your own experience while watching this. I'm not going to tell you that this is fact. I am simply saying, decide for yourself. There was a time, long ago, when humans existed at a very high level of consciousness. We were interdimensional and were very psychic. We communicated through thought and emotion, much like how animals do rather than speaking or writing, which would seem very primitive. We lived primarily on a large string of islands called Lemuria, but there was a consciousness shift. We moved up in consciousness, and the islands of Lemuria sank beneath the oceans. At the time of this shift, a new continent rose out of the waters. We called it Atlantis. Back in the early 1900s, the spiritual path of the United States was similar to what's happening today. people began to learn about meditation and study ancient lands like Atlantis and Lemuria. We actually found quite a bit of evidence that Lemuria existed, and it had to do with coral. See, the ocean floor does rise and fall. Coral can exist up to 150 feet under the surface of the water. In 1910, the surface of the ocean was probably higher because they were able to see coral rings heading away from Easter Islands for a great distance. These rings were estimated to be found at 1,800 feet, which means that for them to have existed, they would have had to be much higher and sunk slowly. Probably more important, they also found the exact same fauna and flora from the Hawaiian Islands all the way to the Easter Islands. This is a great distance, but if you look at a map, you'll see a long string. That string, according to Thoth, used to run along the western shores of Lemuria. It is only on these islands that have the same flora and fauna. Same trees, bugs, bacteria, everything. Science can only explain this if there were closer land bridges between these islands at one point. Although we were studying this at that time, World War I began soon after, and we lost interest in spirituality and the ancient lands for a very long time. After the sinking of Lemuria and the rising of Atlantis, at first the human race became scattered. We moved to various islands and continents all over the world because we didn't have a home. Yet. We didn't know where to go. At that time, there were about 1,000 humans at a very high consciousness, more than all of the rest. They were called the Nacals. Today, we know them as Ascended Masters. The Nacals began preparing Atlantis to be our new home. They projected their energies across the surface of the continent in the form of the Tree of Life, not with 10 circles, but with 12, an extra on top on the island of Udal, and an extra on the bottom in the water. There were 10 components on the mainland, and even though it extended over hundreds of miles on the surface, it was projected to the accuracy of a single atom. We chose to move to Atlantis because of the Kundalini. In humans, the Kundalini is often referred to as the energy serpent that runs up and down your spine. When activated, it provides an immense amount of energy through all of the chakras. The Earth itself also has a Kundalini because the Earth is alive, like an organism, running from the center of the planet to a specific place on the surface. Wherever the Kundalini resides, the people there become the spiritual leaders of the world. The Earth chose Atlantis to be the new energetic center of the planet. After Atlantis, the Kundalini moved to the mountains of Tibet, which is why the Buddhists were the leaders in pure spirituality for the last 13,000 years. It was a very pure place. It moved again within the last 10 years, but that's a story for another time. If you want to read more, check out the book The Serpent of Light by Drunvalo Melchizedek. Suddenly, in a single day, the Nacals breathed life into the Tree of Life on the surface of Atlantis.
All right, let me pause it right there. So, interesting fact, dude has said that, the points of basically spiritual enlightenment change on the planet every so often years. And from what I'm seeing, a lot of people on this particular landmass are starting to wake up and starting to realize what's happening. You got a lot that are asleep also. But from what I'm seeing, it's becoming a lot more people that are starting to clean up the way they think. They're starting to clean up what they intake in their minds and their bodies and things like that. And they're really starting to try to change their paradigm in terms of how they think. So I would make the argument, man, I think it might have changed if that's the case. I think it might have changed to the point where this landmass might be the new focal point. And it's just something to think about.
This created vortexes of energy rotating out of each and every circle. Once the vortexes were established, the children of Lemuria began to be called forth. Millions upon millions of Lemurians who had settled all across the planet began to be pulled toward Atlantis. A great migration began. However, the Lemurian body of consciousness had only reached the age of 12 as a planetary consciousness. Because we were right-brained, we were a female species, like a 12-year-old girl, and some of our centers weren't working yet. They had worked with these energies, but only mastered 8 of the 10. Each migrating Lemurian was attracted to one of these 8 centers on Atlantis, depending on the nature of the individual. There, they settled and began to build cities. That left 2 vortexes with nobody using them, not a single person. These 2 vortexes were pulling life toward them, and in life, you can't have an empty place. Life will find a way to fill it. Similar to if you were driving along a freeway, following another car, and you drop too far behind, someone will fill the place. That's exactly what happened on Atlantis. Though the Lemurians had only filled 8 of the vortex areas, Mayan records state clearly that there were 10 cities in Atlantis when it fell. You can see these records in the Troano document, which is now located in the British Museum. This document is estimated to be 3,500 years old, and it describes in detail the sinking of Atlantis. To fill these 2 empty vortexes, according to Thoth, 2 extraterrestrial races stepped in. Not 1, but 2 completely different races. The first race were the Hebrews, coming from our future. Thoth says that they came from off-planet, but we don't know where exactly. The Hebrews were kind of like a kid who went through 5th grade and didn't make it, so they had to do that grade over again. They learned all the math, the left brain stuff, but they didn't.
So here's the thing about it. I know Finest Thing Walking was talking earlier about a lot of documents and stuff that were found that were written in Hebrew. That would kind of explain that theory also. And he said there was just a document that was found in Puerto Rico, I believe, and they're saying that was written completely in Hebrew too. And that actually backs up his theory, and that backs up what they found pretty much. So that the pieces are coming together slowly but surely.
Didn't get the right brain aspect of evolving consciousness, the doing. They didn't graduate to the next level of evolution, so they had to do it again. They knew a lot of things that we didn't know yet and brought many concepts and ideas to us that we weren't aware of yet. Now, if this is true, this would explain quite a few things about the Hebrew people in general. They seem to have many sacred geometries hidden within their culture. It also puts perspective on the story of Exodus. Perhaps Moses incarnated into that lifetime to free the Hebrews because they were not direct descendants of humans and were being treated unfairly. Or could it be that Moses was visited by an ascended master of the Hebrews who guided him to free their people? Given what we know about dimensions and consciousness, it definitely puts a fresh perspective on old stories that didn't make much sense. We could talk about this more, but let's continue for now. There were no problems caused by the Hebrews coming to Atlantis. They actually benefited our evolution. The other race that stepped in caused big problems. These beings came from the nearby planet of Mars. See, according to Thoth, Mars looked very much like Earth a little less than 1 million years ago. It was beautiful. It had oceans and water and trees that were just fantastic. But something happened to them, and it has to do with something called the Lucifer experiment. From the very beginning of creation, everything is simply an experiment. Creation itself was just consciousness creating and inhabiting itself in that creation. There is no divine plan. Spirit can do whatever it wants. Having said that, if Spirit decides to cut itself off from the rest of consciousness and create a separate reality on its own, it can do that too.
Which is basically happening right now. Y'all seeing this happening with these vaccines and these chips and all this stuff like that. They're basically cutting themselves off from consciousness. They're feeding people what they want them to think on the news. And they're basically cutting themselves off completely from any type of original, thought or what have you. And as a result, you got a system in a complete situation where, it can only end one way. And we all know how that can end. And the interesting thing about it is they said Mars was way too radioactive to be inhabited by any beings from Earth or what have you. They were saying it's way too radioactive. So if there was, like I said, they're about to talk to now, if this situation happened, that would actually shed light on why if there's so much goddamn radiation on that mass.
This is called the Lucifer experiment. Because Spirit is God, it can do this. There is nothing wrong with that. We've kind of been led to believe that Lucifer is evil and the devil. This just isn't true. Lucifer is just another means of perceiving the reality. It is not a unity perception of oneness, but rather a duality perception of two-ness. There's a flower of life pattern for Lucifer as well, but that's a big topic for another time. Anytime the Lucifer experiment has been attempted in the universe, it always ends in failure. The species will cut itself off from love and will become incredibly male, left-brained. What always ends up happening is that everyone becomes very greedy. There is no compassion for one another, and everyone ends up fighting until they end up killing themselves. More than 1 million years ago, the beings on Mars joined the Lucifer experiment, and it failed dramatically. Basically, they cut themselves off from the unity of the universe and created a separate reality. When the Martians severed the love bond, they became pure male, logical beings with no emotions. What happened on Mars was that they ended up fighting. Mars became a battleground. Eventually, it became clear that Mars was not going to survive. They blew their atmosphere away and destroyed the surface of the planet. Nova recently did an episode on planetary magnetics, and they found some interesting things about Mars. The planet didn't have a magnetic system, however the surface was magnetized, implying that at one point it did, but that something happened. Now, we've been discussing the star tetrahedron before, and now I want to give you a brief understanding of the Merkaba. The Merkaba was known in ancient times as the Chariot of Ascension. It is the star tetrahedral energy field around the body. All around the world, there are references to this in ancient texts. When activated to its full potential, the Merkaba, which is both a tool and part of your being, can be used to do the impossible, included but not limited to changing dimensions and traveling through the universe. Before Mars was destroyed, they built huge tetrahedral pyramids. They built 3, 4, and 5-sided pyramids, eventually building a complex that was able to build a synthetic Merkaba. After 1 million years or so, it's been eroded, but the proof is there. Now, because the Martians were severed from the universe.
Now, they said the proof is there. Those are all those pyramids and such they keep finding on planets like Mars and the moon. All of these places have pyramids on them, and they're trying to figure out how the pyramids were built, and that makes sense and lines up to what that is all about. So there you have that particular thought train.
Consciousness, they couldn't create a living Merkaba. They simply used it as a tool. They created a synthetic Merkaba to travel in time and find a new home. A small group of Martians tried to get away from Mars before it was destroyed, and that place they found was Earth, about 65,000 years in our past. They saw this little vortex sitting there just pulling in life with no one in it. They didn't ask permission. being part of the Lucifer experiment, they just said, all right, let's do it.
All right. Yep. So, I mean, y'all can check the rest of that out on your own. It's a long video. Let me exit out of there. Yep, but yeah, long video, good information, a whole lot of good stuff. It's called Hidden Human History, Spirit Science is the people that made it. You might want to type all that in. And very interesting information. And where in the hell?
You may not always see us.
Turn it down.
And they stepped.
Yeah, so there you go. So yep, check it out whenever you get a chance on your own. It's like an hour long. Definitely worth sitting down and listening. And great stuff in it. I mean, some of that stuff ties into what Finest Thing Walker was talking about earlier, when he was saying that, like, again, that tablet was found in Puerto Rico and it has the Hebrew writing all over it. And he was saying, that as far as the Hebrew Israelites go, they were transported to different land masses and such from the Bering Strait. And I've already told you my stances on that and how I feel about that's true. But yeah, I mean, so much information out there that's pretty solid. Let me catch up here. Yeah, I looked that up too. There's actually another file online. I believe it's declassified also by the FBI, where they talk about the Majestic 12 or something like that, and they go in depth about exactly what happened with that situation. It's very crazy information. 999 Society. Is that why he said 9999? That makes sense. What up, Joseph? How you feeling, man? Wellness to you too. Win. Wellness to you too as well. So I think we can pretty much wrap it up now. If y'all don't have any more questions, y'all got some homework to do. Pretty much go check some of that stuff out yourself and listen to the whole entire thing. And let me know what your opinion is on it, man, because there's so much good stuff there. It's like just a big cluster of information I've just dropped upon you. But you got to pretty much listen to it on your own. So if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to go ahead and roll. I got to handle something. Previous engagement I actually had. I hit my man up, see if he's still available. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. So I'll probably be doing another video sometime during the week. It'll be a recording, it won't be a live. Almost at 1,000 subscribers. I'm at 992 now. I need 8 more subscribers. Once we get there, we'll be at the big 1,000, the 1,000 mark. Hard work pays off. So meanwhile, y'all take it easy. Have a nice one and do some research. Keep your mind open. Peace out. Y'all take it easy. 1.